What happens when a beloved British icon sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to face a barrage of condescending questions and thinly veiled insults from a host who seems more interested in tearing her down than celebrating her achievements? It only took 41 seconds for Lorraine Kelly to lose control of her own show, transforming what should have been a respectful conversation into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Dame Judi Dench, one of Britain's most respected actresses, found herself in the crosshairs of a host whose arrogance would ultimately lead to an explosive exit that left the studio in stunned silence. The morning starts like any other on The Lorraine Show. The set is bright and cheerful. The audience is buzzing with excitement. And Lorraine Kelly sits in her signature chair with a smile plastered across her face. She looks at the camera and speaks with that familiar, chirpy energy. Good morning, everyone. We have such a special treat for you today. Dame Judi Dench is here with us, and I cannot wait to have a little chat. The audience claps politely as Judi walks onto the set. She is elegant and poised, wearing a simple but stylish outfit. She waves to the crowd and takes her seat across from Lorraine. The two exchange a brief greeting, and for a moment, everything seems perfectly normal. Judi, welcome. Welcome. How are you? Lorraine asks, leaning forward with exaggerated enthusiasm. I am very well, thank you, Judi responds warmly. Her voice is calm and gracious. Lorraine nods, but there is something in her expression that already feels off. Her smile is a little too tight, her eyes a little too sharp. She glances down at her notes and then back up at Judi. So, Judi, you have been in the business for quite a while now, haven't you? How does it feel to still be working at your age? The question lands like a brick. The audience shifts uncomfortably in their seats. You can almost hear the collective intake of breath. Judi, however, maintains her composure. She smiles politely, though there is a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Well, I have been fortunate to have a career that I love. Age is just a number, really. What matters is the work. Lorraine lets out a little laugh, but it does not sound genuine. It sounds almost dismissive. Oh, come on now. You must think about retirement at some point. I mean, surely there are younger actresses who could take over some of those roles, don't you think? There is a collective gasp from the audience. Even the panel members sitting off to the side look shocked. One of them, a younger woman named Sophie, exchanges a wide-eyed glance with her colleague, Marcus, who is sitting next to her. Marcus shifts in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. Judi takes a slow breath. She is clearly trying to remain gracious, but the tension is starting to show. I do not think it is about age, Lorraine. I think it is about talent and passion. There is room for everyone in this industry. Lorraine waves her hand dismissively, as if Judi has just said something utterly trivial. Right. But let us be honest here. Do you not think that some of your recent work has been a bit, how do I put this, forgettable? I mean, when was the last time you did something that really made people sit up and take notice? The studio falls silent. Even the camera crew seems to freeze. Sophie leans over to Marcus and whispers something, her face full of concern. Marcus just shakes his head slowly, as if he cannot believe what he is hearing. Judi straightens in her chair. Her expression is still polite, but there is a steeliness in her eyes now. I believe my work speaks for itself. I have been fortunate to be part of many wonderful projects, and I am proud of the contributions I have made. Lorraine leans back in her chair, crossing her legs. She is clearly enjoying this, and it is starting to show. There is a smugness in her tone now, a condescension that is impossible to miss. Well, that is lovely, dear. But you have to admit, the industry has changed. Has it not? I mean, people want fresh faces. They want energy. They want relevance. And let us face it, you are not exactly what people would call relevant anymore, are you? The audience audibly reacts. There are murmurs of disbelief, and someone in the back actually says, Oh my God! Sophie covers her mouth with her hand, her eyes wide with shock. Marcus looks like he wants to say something, but he remains frozen in place. Judi does not flinch. She looks directly at Lorraine, and when she speaks, her voice is calm but firm. I think relevance is a matter of perspective. I have had a career that has spanned decades, and I have worked with some of the most talented people in the world. I do not feel the need to prove myself to anyone. Lorraine smirks. Actually smirks. It is a look that says she thinks she has won. That she has gotten under Judi's skin. She glances at the camera, as if inviting the audience at home to join her in this little game. Well, that is very noble of you, Judi, but let us talk about something else. Your personal life. You have been married before, haven't you? Did not quite work out, did it? That does it. The entire room seems to shift. The audience is now visibly upset. Some people are shaking their heads. Others are whispering angrily to each other. Sophie stands up from her seat, looking like she's about to intervene, but Marcus grabs her arm and pulls her back down. He whispers something to her, and she reluctantly sits back, though she still looks furious. Judi takes a deep breath. She is clearly trying to keep her composure, but you can see that this question has crossed a line. I do not think my personal life is relevant to this conversation, Lorraine. Lorraine raises an eyebrow, her smirk widening. Oh, come now. You are a public figure. People want to know about you. They want to know about your failures as well as your successes. It is all part of the package, is it not? Judi does not respond immediately. She just looks at Lorraine, and you can see the wheels turning in her head. She is deciding how to handle this. The silence stretches out, becoming more and more uncomfortable with each passing second. Finally, Judi speaks. Her voice is quieter now, but there is an edge to it. I came here today because I was told this would be a respectful conversation about my work. I was told that this would be an opportunity to talk about the things I care about. What I am experiencing right now is not respect. It is rudeness. Lorraine laughs. Actually laughs. It is a short, sharp sound that feels almost cruel. Oh, Judi, do not be so sensitive. This is just a bit of fun. If you cannot handle a few tough questions, maybe you are in the wrong business. That is the breaking point. Judi stands up. She does not slam her hands on the chair or make a dramatic gesture. She simply stands, calmly and with dignity. The audience erupts into applause. People are cheering for her, supporting her. Sophie jumps to her feet, clapping loudly. Marcus follows suit, nodding his head in approval. Lorraine looks genuinely shocked. Her smirk is gone, replaced by a look of confusion and, perhaps, a hint of panic. Judi, where are you going? We are not done here. Judi looks down at Lorraine. When she speaks, her voice is quiet but firm. Actually, Lorraine, I think we are. I have spent my entire career treating people with respect and dignity, and I expect the same in return. What you have done here today is not journalism. It is not entertainment. It is cruelty, and I will not be a part of it. The audience cheers even louder. Sophie is now openly smiling, and Marcus is nodding enthusiastically. Even some of the crew members are clapping. Lorraine tries to regain control. She stands up as well, her face flushed. Judi, you are being ridiculous. Sit down. Let us talk about this like adults. But Judi is already walking away. She does not look back. She does not hesitate. She just walks off the set, her head held high. The audience is on their feet now, giving her a standing ovation. The cheers are deafening. Lorraine stands there, alone on the set, looking utterly bewildered. She tries to say something, but her voice is drowned out by the applause. Sophie and Marcus are still clapping, their faces glowing with admiration for Judi. But let us rewind for a moment. Let us go back to where this all started, because the seeds of this disaster were planted long before Judi even sat down. The truth is, Lorraine had been in a foul mood all morning. Behind the scenes, things had not been going well. Her producers had been putting pressure on her to boost ratings, and she felt like she was losing her edge. She needed something big, something that would get people talking. And when she saw Judi Dench's name on the guest list, she saw an opportunity. During the pre-show meeting, Lorraine had made her intentions clear. She gathered her team around her and spoke in that clipped, authoritative tone she used when she wanted to make sure everyone understood who was in charge. I want this to be interesting. I do not want some boring, safe interview. I want to push her. I want to see how she reacts. Sophie had looked uncomfortable. She was newer to the show, but she had already developed a good sense of when Lorraine was crossing a line. Are you sure that is a good idea? Judi Dench is, well, she is Judi Dench. People adore her. Lorraine had waved her off dismissively. Oh, please. People love a bit of drama. Trust me, this is exactly what we need. Marcus had chimed in as well, his voice cautious. But Lorraine, if you push too hard, you might alienate the audience. They do not want to see you attack someone they respect. Lorraine had glared at him. I am not attacking anyone. I am asking questions. If she cannot handle it, that is her problem, not mine. And that was that. The meeting ended, and everyone went to their positions. But Sophie and Marcus exchanged worried glances. They both knew this was not going to end well. Now back to the interview. After Lorraine makes that comment about Judi not being relevant, the tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Judi has just delivered her measured response, but you can tell she is holding back. She is being the bigger person, trying to keep things civil, but Lorraine is not making it easy. Lorraine leans forward again, and this time there is a gleam in her eye. She is enjoying this. She is enjoying making Judi uncomfortable. You know, Judi, I have to say, I find it fascinating that you are still so defensive about your career. I mean, you have had a good run. Have you not? Maybe it is time to just accept that your time has passed and let someone else have the spotlight. The audience gasps again. This time, it is even louder. Sophie puts her head in her hands. Marcus looks like he is about to stand up and say something, but he hesitates, clearly unsure of what to do. Judi tilts her head slightly, studying Lorraine. When she speaks, her voice is calm, almost eerily so. Lorraine, I am curious. What is it that you are trying to achieve here? Are you trying to humiliate me? Because if that is your goal, I have to tell you, it says far more about you than it does about me. Lorraine blinks. For a split second, she looks taken aback, but then she recovers, and that smug smile returns. Oh, do not twist this around, Judi. I am just asking the questions that everyone is thinking. People want honesty. They do not want some sanitized, scripted interview where everyone pretends everything is perfect. Judi nods slowly. Honesty is important, but so is respect. And right now, I am not feeling very respected. Lorraine rolls her eyes. Actually rolls her eyes. The camera catches it, and you can see the exact moment when the audience collectively decides they have had enough. There are murmurs of disapproval, and a few people even boo. Oh, for goodness sake, Judi. You are being far too sensitive. This is television. It is supposed to be entertaining. If you cannot take a little bit of criticism, then maybe you should not be doing interviews at all. That is when Sophie finally snaps. She cannot take it anymore. She stands up from her seat, her face flushed with anger. Lorraine, this is not okay. You are being incredibly rude. Dame Judi Dench is a legend, and she deserves to be treated with respect. Lorraine whips her head around to glare at Sophie. Excuse me? I do not recall asking for your opinion, Sophie. Sophie does not back down. If anything, she stands taller. Well, you are getting it anyway. This is not journalism, Lorraine. This is bullying. And I am not going to sit here and watch it happen. The audience erupts into applause. People are cheering for Sophie now. supporting her for standing up to Lorraine. Marcus stands up as well, nodding in agreement. Sophie's right, Lorraine. This has gone too far. Lorraine looks around the studio, clearly realizing that she has lost control of the situation. Her face is red, and her hands are clenched into fists. This is my show, and I will run it however I see fit. Judi stands up then. She does not shout. She does not make a scene. She just stands, calmly and gracefully, and looks Lorraine in the eye. Then I suggest you find someone else to interview, because I will not be staying. And with that, she walks off the set. The audience is on their feet, clapping and cheering. Sophie and Marcus are clapping too, their faces filled with admiration. Even some of the crew members are joining in. Lorraine stands there, alone, looking utterly defeated. She tries to speak, but her voice is lost in the noise. She looks around desperately, as if searching for someone to support her, but there is no one. Everyone is on Judi's side. Finally, she turns to the camera, her face a mask of forced composure. Well, it seems we have had a bit of a disagreement. We will take a quick break and be right back. But nobody is buying it. The damage is done. As the camera cuts to a commercial, you can still hear the audience cheering for Judi. Sophie and Marcus are talking animatedly, clearly discussing what just happened. And Lorraine, for the first time in her career, looks genuinely shaken. But let us go back again to the moments leading up to that first devastating question. Because there were warning signs, little hints that this interview was going to be a disaster from the start. When Judi first walked onto the set, she was greeted by Lorraine with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. There was a coldness there, a distance that Judi immediately picked up on. She is a trained actress, after all. She knows how to read people. As they exchanged pleasantries, Judi noticed that Lorraine was not really listening. She was nodding and smiling, but her eyes kept darting to her notes, as if she was already planning her next move. It was unsettling. And then, when the interview officially started, Lorraine wasted no time. That first question about age came out of nowhere, sharp and pointed. Judi had been expecting something softer, something about her latest project or her thoughts on the industry. Instead, she got an attack, but Judi handled it with grace. She always does. She smiled, gave a diplomatic answer, and tried to move the conversation forward. But Lorraine was not interested in moving forward. She wanted to dig deeper, to push harder. The second question, the one about younger actresses taking over, was even worse. It was not just rude, it was calculated. Lorraine knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to make Judi feel small, to diminish her achievements, and the audience could see it. They could see the cruelty behind the question. Sophie, sitting off to the side, felt her stomach drop. She had worked with Lorraine long enough to know when she was being deliberately provocative, but this felt different. This felt personal. She glanced at Marcus, who looked equally uncomfortable. They both knew that this was not going to end well. And then came the comment about Judi's personal life. That was the final straw. Even Lorraine's most loyal fans in the audience could not defend that. It was cruel, unnecessary, and deeply disrespectful. Judi had lost her husband years ago, and bringing up her marriage in such a callous way was beyond the pale. When Judi called Lorraine out for her rudeness, the entire studio seemed to hold its breath. It was a moment of pure honesty, and it cut through all the pretense and performance. Judi was not playing a role. She was being herself, and she was done with the charade. Lorraine's response, that dismissive laugh, and her comment about Judi being too sensitive, was the nail in the coffin. It showed everyone exactly who Lorraine really was. Someone who thought she was above reproach. Someone who believed she could say whatever she wanted without consequences. When Judi stood up, the message was clear. She was not going to tolerate this kind of treatment. She was not going to sit there and be insulted on national television, and the audience loved her for it. As Judi walked off the set, she did not look back. She did not give Lorraine the satisfaction of seeing her upset. She just walked away, her head held high, her dignity intact. And in that moment, she became a hero to everyone watching. Back on the set, Lorraine tried to salvage the situation. She tried to make it seem like Judi was overreacting, like she was the one being unreasonable. But nobody was buying it. The audience had seen what happened. They had heard the questions. They knew who was in the wrong. Sophie and Marcus, meanwhile, were done playing nice. They had watched Lorraine cross line after line, and they were not going to let her get away with it. When Sophie stood up and called Lorraine out, it was a moment of pure courage. She knew she was risking her job, but she did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. Marcus backing her up was equally important. It showed that this was not just one person's opinion. It was a collective rejection of Lorraine's behavior, and Lorraine knew it. As the show went to commercial, the studio was buzzing with conversation. Everyone was talking about what had just happened. The crew members were shaking their heads in disbelief. The audience members were sharing their thoughts, many of them expressing their support for Judi. Backstage, Judi was met by a producer who looked absolutely mortified. "Dame Dench, I am so sorry. That should never have happened. We had no idea Lorraine was going to behave like that." Judi smiled politely, though she was clearly still upset. "It is not your fault, but I will not be coming back. I hope you understand." The producer nodded, looking defeated. "Of course, and again, I am truly sorry." Meanwhile, back on the set, Lorraine was trying to regroup. She was talking to her team, trying to figure out how to proceed, but the mood was tense. Nobody wanted to look at her. Nobody wanted to defend her. She had gone too far, and everyone knew it. When the show came back from commercial, Lorraine put on a brave face. She smiled at the camera and tried to act like nothing had happened. "Welcome back, everyone. Well, that was unexpected. But let us move on, shall we? We have some wonderful segments coming up." But the energy in the studio was completely different now. The audience was subdued, still processing what they had just witnessed. Sophie and Marcus were sitting stiffly in their seats, their expressions unreadable. And Lorraine, despite her best efforts, looked rattled. The rest of the show limped along. Lorraine tried to engage with her guests, tried to make jokes, tried to be her usual bubbly self. But it all felt forced. The magic was gone. The trust was broken, and everyone could feel it. But let us go back one more time, to the very beginning of the show. Because there is one more piece of the puzzle that needs to be explored. Why Lorraine was so determined to take Judi down in the first place. The truth is, Lorraine had been feeling insecure for weeks. Her ratings had been slipping, and her bosses had been making noises about bringing in fresh talent. She felt threatened, and she needed to prove that she was still relevant, still edgy, still worth keeping around. When she saw that Judi Dench was scheduled to appear on her show, she saw it as an opportunity. Judi was beloved, respected, and untouchable. If Lorraine could take her down a peg, if she could show that even someone like Judi Dench was not immune to tough questions, then maybe, just maybe, she could reclaim her edge. But Lorraine miscalculated. Badly. She underestimated Judi's strength and dignity. She underestimated the audience's love for Judi, and she underestimated her own capacity for cruelty. What Lorraine thought would be a bold, attention-grabbing interview turned into a public relations disaster. Instead of proving her relevance, she proved her irrelevance. Instead of showing her edge, she showed her lack of empathy. And instead of gaining respect, she lost it. As the show ended and the studio emptied out, Lorraine sat alone in her dressing room, staring at herself in the mirror. She knew what she had done. She knew she had crossed a line. And for the first time in a long time, she felt genuinely ashamed. But shame does not erase what happened. It does not take back the words that were said or the hurt that was caused. And it does not change the fact that in that moment, Judi Dench showed the world what true class and dignity look like. What started as a routine interview turned into a defining moment, not just for Judi and Lorraine, but for everyone watching. It was a reminder that respect is not optional, that kindness matters, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. And that is exactly what Judi did. She walked away, head held high, leaving behind a host who had lost her way and an audience that would never forget what they had witnessed. Before we close this chapter, let us revisit one more crucial moment that happened during the interview. It was the moment when Lorraine made her most outrageous statement, the one that truly sealed her fate and showed everyone watching just how far she had fallen. It happened right after Judi had politely deflected the question about her personal life. Lorraine was visibly frustrated that Judi was not taking the bait, that she was remaining composed and dignified despite the constant attacks. So Lorraine decided to escalate. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and looked at Judi with an expression that could only be described as contemptuous. "You know what I think, Judi? I think you are clinging to the past. I think you cannot accept that the world has moved on without you. And honestly, it is a bit sad to watch." The studio went completely silent. It was as if someone had sucked all the air out of the room. Even the camera operators stopped what they were doing and just stared at Lorraine in disbelief. Sophie's mouth fell open. She looked at Marcus, and he looked back at her with the same shocked expression. They could not believe what they had just heard. Judi, for her part, did not react immediately. She sat there, perfectly still, looking at Lorraine with an expression that was hard to read. It could have been pity. It could have been disappointment. Or it could have been a combination of both. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Judi spoke. Her voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. "Lorraine, I want you to think very carefully about what you just said. Because what you are describing, clinging to the past, being unable to accept change, that sounds an awful lot like projection to me." The audience erupted. There were gasps, there were cheers, there were even a few people who stood up and started clapping. Judi had just delivered the most devastating comeback, and she had done it with complete calm and grace. Lorraine's face turned bright red. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time in the entire interview, she was speechless. Sophie took that moment to stand up again. This time, she was not angry. She was determined. "Lorraine, I think you owe Dame Dench an apology. What you just said was completely out of line." Lorraine finally found her voice, but it was shaky and defensive. "I do not owe anyone an apology. I was just being honest. If people cannot handle honesty, then that is their problem." Marcus stood up now too, his expression serious. "There is a difference between honesty and cruelty. Lorraine, and what you are doing right now is cruel." The audience was cheering louder now. They were on their feet, supporting Judi, Sophie, and Marcus. It was clear that Lorraine had lost the room completely. Judi looked at Lorraine one last time. When she spoke, her voice was filled with a quiet sadness. "You know, Lorraine, I came here today hoping to have a meaningful conversation. I wanted to talk about my work, about the things I am passionate about the industry I love, but instead, I have been subjected to personal attacks and insults. And I have to tell you, it says a lot more about you than it does about me." She stood up then, gathering her things with quiet dignity. "I wish you all the best, Lorraine. I truly do, but I will not be a part of this anymore." And with that, she walked off the set for the final time. The applause was thunderous. People were on their feet, cheering for Judi, supporting her decision to walk away from such toxic behavior. Lorraine stood there, alone in the center of the stage, looking completely lost. She had pushed too hard, said too much, and now she was paying the price. The show that was supposed to be hers, the audience that was supposed to support her, had all turned against her. Sophie and Marcus walked over to the edge of the set, watching Judi leave. They both had expressions of deep respect on their faces. They had just witnessed something extraordinary, a masterclass in dignity, in grace under pressure, in knowing when to walk away. Let us take one more look at what happened in those final moments before Judi's exit. Because it was not just about the words that were said. It was about the body language, the tone, the entire atmosphere in the studio. When Lorraine made that comment about Judi clinging to the past, you could see the shift in the room. The audience members who had been sitting politely, giving Lorraine the benefit of the doubt, suddenly realized what was really happening. This was not an interview. This was an ambush. One woman in the front row actually shook her head and mouthed the word "no" to her friend. A man in the back crossed his arms and frowned. The energy in the room had completely changed. And Judi, sitting there with perfect posture, perfect composure, showed everyone what real strength looks like. She did not yell. She did not lash out. She simply spoke the truth, calmly and clearly, and that truth hit harder than any insult ever could. When she made that comment about projection, about Lorraine being the one who was clinging to the past, it was like a light bulb went off for everyone watching. Because it was true. Lorraine was the one who was desperate, who was trying too hard, who was lashing out because she felt threatened. And when Sophie and Marcus stood up to support Judi, to call out Lorraine's behavior, it was the final confirmation that Lorraine had gone too far. These were her own colleagues, people who worked with her every day, and even they could not defend what she was doing. As Judi walked off the set, she did not look back. She did not give Lorraine a second glance. She just walked away, leaving behind a studio full of people who were inspired by her strength and disappointed by Lorraine's behavior. The cameras kept rolling for a few more seconds, capturing Lorraine's stunned expression, and the audience's continued applause and Sophie and Marcus's supportive gestures toward where Judi had exited. It was a moment that would be replayed over and over, analyzed and discussed, remembered as one of the most dramatic exits in television history. But beyond the drama, beyond the spectacle, there was a deeper message. It was a message about respect, about kindness, about treating people with dignity, no matter who they are or what you think of them. Judi Dench embodied that message. She showed that you do not have to accept mistreatment, that you can stand up for yourself with grace and class. And Lorraine? She showed what happens when you let your insecurities and your ego get the better of you. She showed what happens when you confuse being provocative with being interesting, when you mistake cruelty for honesty. In the end, it was not about who won or who lost. It was about what kind of person you choose to be when you are in a position of power. Do you use that power to lift people up, or do you use it to tear them down? Judi chose the former. Lorraine chose the latter. And the consequences of that choice were there for everyone to see. What started as a simple interview became a defining moment. A moment that showed the true character of everyone involved. A moment that reminded us all that how we treat others matters. That words have power. And that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply walk away.